Now, for the last 10 years or so, the United States culture operated on shame. Shaming tactics were the norm, where you had the social justice activist or the woke going around with spears like warriors and thrusting them, going like racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic, bigoted, racist. And this had monumental effects as they marched through institutions, as they marched through corporations, getting people fired, ruining lives, destroying America's entertainment industry, attacking politicians for not adhering to woke ideology. And we know this from Trump's first time he was in office. They constantly attacked him for mean tweets. It's like, oh my goodness, how can he tweet something like that? But how can he say that? But how can we allow? And the left were the ones that did the shaming. Like, if you didn't adhere to their orthodoxy, they would shame you. And shaming was kind of like painting a target on that person. It's like, you need to ruin that person, or at the very best, disassociate with them, because if you don't disassociate from that person, we will ruin you as well. And we had debanking, we had people getting fired, we had entire websites having the internet infrastructure pulled from under them. We had companies that couldn't get business anymore. It was surreal, right? And you would look like what leftist orthodoxy meant, and some of the shaming tactics involve like, this company is trying to enforce gender norms. You know, it's called norms because it means normal, by the way. But still, you know, the conservatives were on the back foot in this. But it seems that not anymore. It seems that right now it's the conservatives that are doing the shaming. And let's...
The behavior of Democrats last night was completely disgraceful and demonstrated how severely out of touch they are with the American public. It was the most shameful moment in the history of presidential addresses in that beautiful chamber. In what was supposed to be a unifying moment for our country, Democrat members of Congress instead screamed at the President of the United States, who was just overwhelmingly reelected by their constituents, walked out of the chamber, and worst of all, they disrespected the American people. Democrats didn't stand to keep men out of women's sports. They couldn't even clap for a girl who got her head smashed in by a man on a volleyball court. Democrats didn't stand for an innocent and beautiful child who is surviving brain cancer. They opposed eliminating taxes on tips and Social Security. They didn't stand in favor of cutting taxes for hardworking Americans. They couldn't even clap for two mothers whose daughters were killed by illegal aliens. One of the only things that could get Democrats off their feet last night was cheering for Ukraine.
To be fair, they weren't really cheering for Ukraine. They were cheering for the spending. Like, that word probably got them riled up. It's like, we're spending taxpayer money, and that's what got them cheering. So, for those of you who lack the context, the speech of the Union was held last night. And, you know, like, up until now, it's kind of normal for the president to root for his party or his politics, because unlike in my nation, where the president is supposed to be an arbiter and he renounces his political affiliation, at least symbolically, before stepping office, in the United States, well, you have a Republican president. You used to have a Democrat president before. And, you know, I encourage people to listen to Joe Biden's speeches and notice that, yeah, like, he was shilling for the Democrat agenda, which, you know, I understand that it's normal in the U.S. Still, you're trying to at least, you know, create some unity. You're trying to not be extremely divisive. And so, when I looked at the previous speech, the one from last night, I don't think, like, Trump could have scripted the Democrat reaction any better. Like, there is, like, no way that if he was in charge, if he had men on the inside and wanted to make the Democrats look bad, there is nothing that he could have done in order to make them look any worse. Like, just so you can understand what we're talking about. The U.S. president brought in a black kid that survived cancer, and his dream was to become a Secret Service agent. And so the president of America decided to make him an honorary Secret Service agent. Like, if you read that in the history books, you'd go like, oh, that is some wholesome shit, right? If you're a person from China that has like no connection with the United States, but like someone tells you, yeah, so like in America, there's this kid, you know, he survived cancer, and the president of America just made him an honorary Secret Service because like that's what he wanted to become. Anyone would just go, oh, you know, like if you're a human being and you're not lobotomized or something, like that's the normal reaction that anyone would get. Like, this is not partisan in any way, shape, or form, right? But then there's the Democrats. Not one of them clapped. In fact, even the guests they brought didn't clap. And again, this is the party that supports minorities, right? And then accused of taking the black vote for granted. Like, at least you need to clap for the cameras, right? Like, even if you genuinely don't care or you don't feel anything about it, at least you're supposed to pretend that you're clapping from the cameras, because otherwise the moral decoupling happens. Exactly what I've mentioned before, you know? You need to at least pretend that the other side can occasionally do something that you like, so that the other side can at least try to impress you, to negotiate, to find the middle ground. But if you're constantly just going to be like, nothing the other side does is good enough, then no one will care when you get outraged. No one will care when you get upset, even on legitimate issues. Even on things that matter, people will be, well, I mean, they're the Democrats. Like, that's their default position. Of course they don't care, so why are we even concerned with them? And this is like the problem that the Democrat Party suffers from right now. And it made them look absolutely awful. Why can't they support the idea of removing taxes for tips? Like how much money, how much trillions of dollars are there being saved by forcing waitresses to pay taxes for tips? You know? It's like one of those things where you're like allegedly the party for the poor and the party for the marginalized, the party for the little guy. Well, what's smaller than a waiter that gets some fucking tips? Why do you have to be against that? Like, I get it, you know, you're against the USA because that's where your grift is. Like, fine, I understand that. But when it's about other things, like trivial shit, like maybe, you know, like, okay, fine, you know, get rid of the tips for waiting and find something else to tax. Or print more money, because that's what they do anyway. It's so fucking insane, man. Like, the thing that I'm genuinely worried is that when the establishment gets into power, right? Like, when you have a party that constantly wins, eventually you get the grifters in, eventually you get, like, the unhinged person, the sociopaths, right? And this is why it's good when the government is balanced, when you don't have, like, one side that feels comfortable in power, when you can say, like, okay, well, any moment the shift can happen, so, like, we should make sure that we're not acting as crazy unhinged people. But the Democrats apparently want this to be MAGA country in perpetuity with this level of behavior. Like, you're not going to consistently win votes if the only time you're cheering is when taxpayer money are being spent for Ukraine. Like, I'm not saying you shouldn't cheer for that, but you should cheer for other things as well, you know? You should cheer for stuff that's happening in America. Like, I don't know, the wish of a black kid that survived cancer to become a Secret Service agent. Or are you upset that he may actually do a better job at preventing assassinations than the current people in the Secret Service? I don't know. Like, maybe this kid has, like, a superpower. Maybe he can stay on a roof that's sloped. You know, he can set up a sniping position on a sloped roof, and this is what terrifies them. Oh, it's going to embarrass the current secret agents. Ah, I see. Let me know what you guys think, and as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.